A protester was shot by a militia member in Albuquerque Monday evening while a group was trying to tear down a statue. And so that's great. In the hours leading up to the violence on Monday, protesters faced off with members of an armed militia that calls itself the New Mexico Civil Guard and counter-protesters toting All Lives Matter signs. I only mention that so that you understand what sort of people we're talking about here. And here's the thing. It wasn't just shoving. It was shooting, because one of those militia members brought a gun. Now, I want to show you this video. In the video, you're not going to actually see a person getting shot, but I want you to hear the gunfire and imagine the experience of being one of these protesters and knowing that this was always a possibility, that one of these crazies would show up. Heard 4 gunshots. Apparently one individual was shot. The individual who did the shooting, Stephen Ray Baca, was taken in and was booked on a charge of aggravated battery, which is a weird way to describe attempted murder.
Seems like he's being undercharged there. Battery and gunshot should not be synonymous. That's attempted murder.
Yeah. Tried to kill a person. You don't. Then it wasn't a warning shot into a crowd. And the thing is, the reason that this is so sad is not just that a person did get shot, but that we've been predicting this. And there's been other instances of, attempted violence or successful violence against protesters. There was a KKK leader who drove up to Seattle and then tried to drive into a crowd and shot someone in that case. Now, I understand it seems almost pointless to point out that almost all the violence has come from right-wingers when you have been trained to believe that Antifa is the source of all of this, even though the FBI hasn't booked one single person with some sort of a attachment to Antifa in connection with literally anything yet. But here we have it. A militia was counter-protesting. They say that they're there to protect businesses. I don't know what a conquistador statue, what kind of business they have with that. But they bring guns. They start pushing up against people, and the second someone pushes back, we know that these gun-owning people are the most scared people in America, and so they're instantly terrified for their life, and so they start firing. So this was not like some unfortunate thing that happened. This was the strategy. This is what they're going for. Now, hopefully that individual won't die. But this is the danger. It's these militias trying to start a civil war or whatever it is.
Obviously. And I think everything you said there was spot on. It's the tale of two Americas, right? Because if any of those protesters showed up with guns themselves, what would we be hearing about all the time? From the president, from, honestly, the corporate media is left-wing mob violence, they're bringing arms and they're trying to kill people, race riots, whatever it may be. But I feel like this is like the 118th headline when we're talking about the news yesterday and today, right? So people are not paying attention enough to right-wing violence because I think there's this tacit, not approval, but passivity when it comes to right-wing terror and right-wing violence that does not get applied when talking about the left.
Yeah. Yeah, and the issue is that it's not just that they sort of got out in front of the obvious actual threat, which is right-wing domestic violence, as it has been for years, with the Antifa stuff. It's
domestic terror, you mean? Domestic terror.
What did I say?
Domestic violence.
Domestic terror, exactly. Well, it's a form of violence, but yes, domestic terror.
There's both, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, there's people probably involved in quite a bit of both. But it's also that, the single most successful media company in our country doesn't give a damn about any of this. And, they're not necessarily going to come out and vocally support it, but they don't have a problem with these militias showing up and intimidating people. Look at the damage control they do for people like George Zimmerman and all of those sorts of people. They like this violence.
And they validate it by pushing a counter narrative about violence on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this group, by the way, I want to give you a little bit more details on them. On their Facebook group, they share materials encouraging people to arm themselves, promote military training on infantry tactics, not joining the military, by the way, just doing a little bit of their training, and ambushing. So, purely defensive tactics, the ambushing. And they had multiple posts opposing the leveling of monuments. In this particular case, it's a conquistador, because what we do in our country is we take people, in this case, a person who massacred indigenous people, and we erect monuments to them. So the most murderous people in the history of our land, and the people who lose traitorous wars, those are the ones that we put tens of thousands of dollars into erecting permanent statues for. As if we don't have heroes.
Taking that down is insulting to Spanish American heritage, John, so I think you should watch your words.
Exactly. Well, I'm sorry, Emma. I know that you've been a longtime defender of the statue, but according to Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller, the statue is now going to be removed as an urgent matter of public safety until authorities determine a next step.
Obviously, a reference to Andrew Cuomo saying Chris Columbus taking down his statue is anti-Italian American.
Exactly.
Just a reminder, he built up some goodwill with the United States. Just a reminder that he's actually a POS.
Mm-hmm. Wait, Cuomo or Christopher Columbus?
Well,
maybe both.
I have stronger words for Columbus.
Exactly. Well, and I'll say, yes, it's potentially an insult to Italian culture. I'm Italian. Tear them all down. I don't care. This is one Italian that says it's okay. Yeah, and he was not only murderous, we could go through all of it. He also didn't know where he was going. He was an idiot. Anyway, more people are going to get shot. More people are going to die. And these companies are going to protect them. They're not going to cover it. I mean, we went through multiple weeks of how many viral videos of cops using their vehicles as weapon, brutally attacking people, and the biggest media company in the country, the one that says it is a check on executive power and government trampling on the rights of people. I don't care. I'm not interested. They didn't play any of it.
No, they're the most authoritarian of them all. They're state media for a wannabe fascist. They don't care about government trampling on rights.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've been worried for a few years now about the emboldening of these groups. And they have killed people. They've already done that. But I'm worried about candidates being killed. Like, why not in some of these cases? If they've been trained by the right that power is the end, you can do anything. Anything is justified if it ends up with more power. Breaking all the norms, stealing seats, whatever. Someone is going to start killing candidates. And when that happens, like, who thinks that Sean Hannity is going to do a show where he's like, you know what, we need to seriously think about this road that we're going down because it has taken a dangerous turn. No, they're going to provide damage control. They're going to talk about the sexual habits of pandas or something like that. Like they're going to talk about Sesame Street. Like, they are the smoke screen under which authoritarianism is taking over more and more and more of America. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.